I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. Tank, load the jump program.
So what is G.R.I.T Athletics? G.R.I.T Athletics was started back in 2014. It was started because we were in a community that had underdeveloped athletes. I came to this community and I was actually amazed the first day of track practice coming off the road. And I'm sitting there. I think I went to one of the head coach called like a coaches meeting because they got a new sprint coach, which was me. But they had a coaches meeting and they had all these a lot of kids came to the meeting, not all obviously, but it was they looked talented, and I was kind of excited. We might have something here, and I go out to practice. The first day was February. And I was just by the kids walking up. I swear it was probably 100 and something kids. It definitely was close to 100 that came out for track. That was exciting. First off, there was two athletes that went to states that previous year, so they were seniors at the time, and I was excited for them. And I was excited just to meet and see what we had, and being a new coach, I was excited. Like, whoa, this seemed like a lot of talented kids, a lot of talent just everywhere. And y'all, the first day of practice, it was like chaos. None of them knew any drills, basically. None of them, at least to the standard that I do them. And drills don't make you faster, but drills can help with developing speed. And it was a lot of, everybody does what they want. The biggest thing that they shared with Coach Swift and Mama Swift at the time was no coach stays. And that just tore Mama Swift's heart up. And then she was like, wow, no coach stays. Hearing the story, I'm thinking no coach stays because there's nothing here. Like, it's this underdeveloped, a tremendous amount of potential, but it was just so hard to be a part of, and for me to even be a part of and I was like, I don't want to do this. It was just, for me, it was just an uphill battle, and for coming off the road, driving across the country, landing in Arizona, I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. But my wife is very persuasive, and we did, and we had success. A lot of ups and downs. A lot of those athletes. That's one of the seniors that I'll mention. Ben. I'm gonna say his name. So what? If he don't like it, he'll be alright. Ben. Still talk to. Mama Swift would always tell me, you need to go talk to him, and like have a conversation. And I was more like, no. I just make it very simple, no. But when I did go talk to him, I don't know if Ben remembers, we were at a Wednesday meet, and I just went and just started sharing with him, and seeing who he was. He's very athletic, extremely athletic. And at that moment, I realized, my calling. I realized it. Everybody else has said that to me, that you should be a coach and blah 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 blah, and you have great experiences and great things to share. And I think that conversation with Ben here in Arizona, it opened my eyes to it. And on my side, it was a normal conversation, but I was in a different space in my life. The boys, Daniel was 5, and Jay 6, so he was 8, and at that time, I just focused my energy on honestly just sharing. I mean, the training was a training. When you meet a kid or you meet an athlete in season, like, there's no off-season program. A lot of things that that I would deal with, especially from parents and sometimes the doctors or something in the community, they would make statements, and they would get back to me and it would say, I'm working the kids too hard, or I'm overtraining them. And all these things will be said and shared. And don't get me wrong, I can understand how you could take offense as a coach to that. But I agree with every single one of those assessments, because most of the kids were just sitting on the couch. You got off the couch, you come to practice, you're overtrained. Of course. You're working them too hard. Of course. Like, there was nothing there. Like, I can't even fault them for saying the statements but that just meant to me no one understood, or there was no program in Sierra Vista at the time to understand like the steps that it takes to be a lot of what's said around the country. I'm sure definitely here in Sierra Vista was I'm gonna be a professional athlete or D1 athlete. D1 athlete was a big thing. And yeah, that was kind of like, okay, it was a lot of, and I will say there was a lot of D1 athletes in my opinion, but there was not a lot of mental understanding on how to get there. It was not a lot of plans laid out for them to get there. And like I said, we had success the first track season. I mean, I would call it success. It was very rough, a lot of trimming of fat, but at the same time, it was good. It was good because it led into what I ultimately said. By the time states came around, we were at states and it was over. And I think we're at, you leave states and we're at one of the places, one of the eateries. And I said to myself, I was like, I'm not doing this no more. Like, this is just too much work. And that was Toya's first time ever being a coach. She kind of sat with me and learned a lot about coaching. Learned a lot of how athletes will, Mama Swift was there, so the girls, Mama Swift says a beautiful statement, at least to them. It annoys the hell out of me, is your hair looks cute, and that starts the chain reaction of my nails, and it's just, and I'm like, hey, we got to practice. I don't got time to be looking at nails or whatever the case may be. So Mama Swift, actually her name Mama Swift came from Ben. Ben was sitting at practice one day, and I'll never forget, he's like, what do we call you? It's Coach Swift. And then he said Mama Swift, and it honestly, it stuck. So thank you, Ben, for giving Mama Swift that name that stuck. But at the end of that, I was done. I was like, this is just too much. Too many parents with opinions that don't really understand what it is to accomplish. An athlete, not even D1. I'm just saying, just an athlete, just the athlete. And I wasn't asking, I'm not a coach that, drops the F-bomb at practice. I don't do all that stuff. I just require, as any coach should require, is just work hard and be accountable and be a good teammate. And those things weren't here at the time. So guess what? I didn't want to sit another year and implement them. But again, a persuasive wife and some parents got together, not with my wife, not with Mama Swift. They said, you need to start a program. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to start a program for this. A lot of conversation with Toya. So I was like, okay, we'll do it. We'll see if it don't work. And I was mostly pushing on the side of it not working, then we can move on. But again, it led into a summer. That first summer, Lauren Miller popped her head in as a little 14-year-old. I think it was like a couple days after her birthday. That's when I met Lauren Miller, and she was a very interesting 14-year-old. And what I mean by why I say interesting is because when you're winning all your races as an 8th grader, and then you come to high school, you kind of expected to just transfer over. That's the expectation. And what I say to a lot of parents, especially when I'm at meets, track meets specifically, I always say, like, their child wins the race. And this is something for everybody to understand. It's like, it is great to win. it is great to actually, I believe when I ran track in college, I don't think I won a race, if I can remember correctly. But anyway, it's great to win. It is. And it takes a lot of hard work to win, I would say, at states, let's just say here in Arizona or Texas, Florida, you already know. But winning a race doesn't mean your child or the athlete deserves to go to states. There's qualifications you have to go through. And a lot of times you can have athletes that run and win every race at their meets or in their heats. That's another thing. They win their heat. And that's something that parents would, be frustrated about. It's like they won, but let me make this clear for, maybe I can help other coaches with this, or maybe I definitely am helping myself by explaining this. I am not against your child. Like I want every child to have a opportunity to win a race, have an opportunity to compete, and have an opportunity to, to have a level of success, especially on the track. And I think in other sports, there's different ways of having success, you getting on the field in sports or on the court, soccer, different things. But in track is a very cutthroat sport, and you earn your lane. I didn't make it to the finals. Well, you didn't earn it. It lets you know it's instant gratification. You cross the line and the time says something slow, that's the time. And what's even better than when I was running, most meets that we go to, invitationals we go to, are FAT. That's fully automatic timing. Like it's you can't argue with it. You can be disgusted and frustrated that it says that time, but like I say to some of the athletes, like that is the time. That's your, coach, I feel like I was running faster. I'm like, but that's your time. So a lot of what GRIT was, that summer was me just trying to get the athletes prepared to have some success at the end of their, at the end of their race. It was really them understanding, like, it takes more than just saying, I want to win. It takes more than just hoping to win. It takes more than just saying I showed up. So that's what GRIT was started like that. And Toya came up with the name. Well, I believe her and Coach Bristow were discussing different things, and then they liked the word GRIT. And then it turned into Toya being great with words and obviously acronyms. And she's like, greatness requires integrity and tenacity. And that's in my shirt right here. Actually, I got this on. There you go. Boom. And that's how GRIT was established. And GRIT continued down the path of, raising the standard. And what was the raising the standard here in this community, but also raising the standard for the athletes, or the athletes to understand that they can work hard, and for parents to understand you have to work hard. And guess what? It's not free. Like it was things discussed as, and I understand when people talk about coaches and they, coaches don't get paid a lot at the high school level. Definitely not here, I would say, in my community or in Arizona. But some coach could jump up and say, I do, but you're just one. Congratulations. But you have to really, I never like bashing coaches. You have to really understand, that coaches, I would be in some circles where they'd be like, oh, that coach sucks. I'm like, well, the coach product says what it is. Like, it's hard enough to be a coach and share and shine your light, even though parents don't understand. That's hard enough when you're dealing with youth athletes. So I commend all coaches just for signing up. And people could say, oh, no, not about no. I'm not into trying to separate this coach from the other, because it's hard enough. It's extremely hard to get. Now, you have to love it or to stick with it. And I love coaching. I didn't want to coach at the high school here because of some of the things that I was dealing with. But truthfully, I will be coaching for the rest of my life. I will be, now everybody calls me coach. But anyway, back to the understanding of From the parent side, it's in track. I want to go specifically towards track. At the end of the race, there's a time that goes up. In this state, in every other state, and even in definitely in colleges, they have times you have to meet. So let's use a girl, female, who runs 100 meters. And I believe here in Arizona, we're in the high school here is in Division 2. It's like 12.5 for automatic qualifying. I'm not sure what the provisional, but I remember it being 12.5. Your daughter runs 13.1 as a let's just say she's a junior, and she's been on the track team 3 years, and she's gotten better from maybe she started with 14.1 and now she's running 13.1 as a junior. That's good. That's progress. Is there things that we can work on to get your daughter better? Yeah, I'm sure. If she's been committed 3 years, and we got from a 14.1 as a freshman to a 13.1, that is tremendous progress. I count that as, obviously that's a whole second. That's something to be proud about. And she's never won a race with her 13.1, but she competes every day. She comes to practice. Like I always say, like that female, that girl, she's coming to the meet. Like I'll bring her to the meet. But coach, this girl's faster. But hey, she competes every day. She's gotten better over the past 3 years. She's came in her junior year. She's working hard. She doesn't have an off-season program. She likes playing volleyball, but she's just a sweet girl. Yeah, I will coach that athlete every day because she's not, in essence, really, and let's just say she has a mindset of, oh, I don't really want to go to college. So I talked to her junior year, and I say, you got down to 13.1. We're not even at the end of the season. If you put some work in the off season, things could change, and you can possibly get down to, let's just say 12.8. Like, coach, no, and like that's just so fast. Those girls are fast, and that's the part where coaches, or at least Coach Swift, comes in and says, but you're fast. You just haven't ran that time yet. And this girl signs up for grit. And she works hard. She understands what working hard. She understands what recovery is. She understands that, what an ice bath is. She understands that it's a group of us. Maybe, at Grit, in the summer, we usually have our most athletes. We don't do that anymore after 2020, but the summer program, but in the core, we usually have 8 athletes, and a group of 8 athletes, girls and boys, and my boys are always a part of it. So I would say 10 athletes total, and they can go to workouts together, do pool workouts together, all that stuff, just wonderful. And that athlete understands, if they stick to that program and they show up in the off season and they do the at home workouts, and they know what it takes to be a part of a group, and what it takes to be a part of a group that's looking to gain a goal and be successful. Like, that child will come in as she is committed, and she will run better because of the energy she's around. And this child needs the support, not just from her coaches, not just from her peers. She needs the support from her parents. And let's just say her parents don't know how to support her. That's where a lot of conversation and listening has to be done. And I'm not telling parents what to do, but I've learned by listening to athletes that a lot of us, I had to learn how to listen. Let me back up for a second. I had to learn how to listen to these athletes. I had to learn to sit and be like, wait a minute, that's not a big problem in my mind, but in their mind, that is a huge deal. So guess what? I'm going to sit here and listen. And truthfully, once it's out their heads, and I'm like, and then you show them a different path, you don't tell them they're wrong. You say, hey, what about this, this, and this? Or they're mad at their mother or their father, or whatever the case may be. And you discuss with them, like, I'm coach and I'm Mama Swift. I never want to take replacement of your parent, and I can't, even if I wanted to. But all we will provide, and for sure, is listening. that's not always that. Again, Toya taught me how to listen. Like, I would ask her questions like, how do I listen more? Like, they just be talking, and no activity. They just be talking. But a lot of it was me just honestly wanting to know, wanting to learn, wanting to develop a new skill, a new trait that I can actually, I at one point, I don't really have a story that relates to it, but at one point I realized, like, wait a minute, if I'm listening to them, they actually give more effort. If I'm listening to them, and I'm talking about, again, as a coach, I'm giving the athlete something that they could carry for or have with them for the rest of their life. So again, G.R.I.T Athletics was started the fact that there was a need, and now there was the need of listening, and that's what G.R.I.T Athletics became. And one huge thing that they would always talk about, and it would get on my so I guess it wouldn't get on my nerves. It was just something that especially the young ladies would say to me, is like, hey coach, you got a story time. They loved hearing stories, and I learned how to tell stories through them, and by them asking me questions and developing more vivid stories. Because I had this one year where I had all females at G.R.I.T. It was all females. It might have been 8 or 9 of them, and it was just me and my 2 boys. And I had to learn that having a session and coach listening about hair or makeup or nails, that was important to them. So I was extremely and they knew that. It wasn't like they didn't know. They knew it was hard for me, but they were patient enough with me and explained to me what this was or what type of bun this is. And it was all confusing to me. It was just, what the heck is going on? But I matured through that. I grew up a little bit and understood, like, okay, this is important to them, so I'm going to make it important to me. And that's what I did. And from that, we've developed a great relationship through G.R.I.T. Greatness requires integrity and tenacity. The integrity part, or let's just talk about greatness. Everybody wants to be great at something. I'm not talking about just at sports, be great. The requirements to be great is a level of integrity. And that's like, when coach is not around, what are you doing? When your parents are not around, what are you doing? And you always need the integrity. And if you mix it with something called tenacity, like, I don't see how you can fail. And a lot of athletes that stuck it out through G.R.I.T, been through G.R.I.T, the ups and the downs of what Coach Swift was going through, they have that, stamped on them. Even the ones, again, like the Ben Sims, the Savans, the Ambers, the Felicities, those are some strong individuals I just mentioned. I can keep going, and I know I miss a ton of you, and you're probably going to be like, Coach didn't say my name. But whatever. But there's some strong people. And as Mama Swift said, we're not going to just step away because they either graduated or gone off in their own lives. We want to create stuff to where they can still be listened to, or they can listen to me. Because a lot of what, Felicity would share with me is, Coach, I love talking to Felice. Felice always has a great story. And I mean great stories, like she always doing something. Anybody who know Felice knows that. But I love talking to her. I love when she calls me and she says, Coach, and then I get the rundown of whatever she's going through. And if anybody knows Felice, and our conversations are very simple, not deep, it's not confusing. I be like, you're tough. I'm obviously paraphrasing a little bit. You do what you want and you never give up. And then she goes, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, so this is what we focus on, and you just keep being you. And that makes me, that gives me a level of, it's exciting. It's exciting to know that I can just have a short conversation with a lot of these young people and I can give something back. And that's what G.R.I.T was. And G.R.I.T was, in this particular case, Felicity went through grit, and she's definitely still has a lot of grit, a lot of toughness in her. She's had a many of workouts to where her word, when her mother would ask her, how was grit today? She says, death. That is her way of saying it, death. I'm like, oh boy. That was grit. That is grit. Grit is for the people. Grit was a thing that Coach Swift learned so much. Mama Swift learned so much. We've developed tremendous amount of relationships, tremendous amount of people that are young people that are around us. We obviously accumulated some adults that love what we do. But the new season is Conscious Athlete. We're still always going to be grit. We're still always going to, grit was the first thing. That was the firstborn. But we now are creating Conscious Athlete to where we got this wonderful thing called technology. We can be in different states and have a conversation. We can be, in different countries and have conversations. Put stuff together. Well, not me, because I'm not as good as some of the young people around me when it comes to editing different things. So we can put stuff together. We can help other people, and we can discuss tons of things. And that's what makes us all conscious. Conscious to me is just one. We're all one. And I see that as a collective, like people. And yes, we call it Conscious Athletes, but I look at conscious as, like I said, one. But I believe if I was at the gym, I'm at a hotel, and I was at the gym today, and there was a man that walked in with a walker, and he got on the exercise bike, and he was pedaling. And it was good to see him in there, obviously, but he's an athlete. My thing, like that took a lot to just walk through the door, whether he was afraid or whatever the case may be, but he definitely was on a walker. He may have been through an injury. It really doesn't matter. But for me, that's a level of grit, and I appreciated that, and I will never forget that. No, I didn't talk to him. No, I didn't go over and say good job today. But I saw the fact that this person, it wasn't easy getting up this morning, but he decided to go to the gym and show his grit and show the fact that there is a level of athletic prowess in that, or at least stability in that. So I appreciate that. So that's what grit is. And as we build this new platform of Conscious Athlete, I look forward to the more people we'll collect, because there's a lot of things that honestly that we don't share enough. We don't discuss stuff enough. I never want my athletes, or the athletes who encounter me, to feel like they're alone, to feel like, some of the things that, that I may have felt, I never want them to feel that way, ever. But I can't control everybody and everything, and I'm not trying to. But the way that I can reach more people is doing recordings. And like I said, you can watch it, and you can turn it on, and you can get frustrated, and you can turn it off. And then you could mature and then say, oh, I can go back to that. And I have times when I've done that with people where I'm watching them on YouTube, and I just can't stand what they're saying, and I turn it off, and then I go back, maybe a year later or months later, and I'm like, wow, I wasn't evolved enough to understand what this person was really trying to say, or really trying to relate to me. Because in my opinion, I look at YouTube as you're talking directly to me. So again, grit is amazing. Grit was needed. And we're going to take grit, and we're going to build this conscious community, and we're going to grow this conscious community into something that everybody can be proud of, and we can all be excited about. Because to go where I believe we're going, and sharing and bringing people on and discussing different things, to go that way, we need a community. And I'm not trying to go, what was that quote? If you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go as a group or grow as a team. But for me, my word is the community. And I had to learn what community was, because Toya again taught me that. Like, she's always about the community, always about people. One thing that I will drop about Mama Swift, Toya, is I've never met a person that actually did not like her. And if they did, I was surprised. And I can't even remember anybody was like, I don't like her. And if you talk to Mama Swift, she will be blown away. You know, she has every insecurity that any normal person has, but she has a tremendous amount of love, and it just covers everything. And that's why, you know, I'm thankful that she is my wife. I'm thankful that she, at times, I would say, she would probably use something a little sterner. She tolerates, you know, my adventures. I'm like, babe, this is what we're doing. And she's like, oh my God, Joseph again. So I appreciate her, but more so I appreciate the people who will be a part to build this community. I'm excited about that. So until the next time, hey folks, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Oh yeah, hit that bell, you know, so you can know more about Swift Sundays.